Arrival on Antraxia. The stars glimmered in the blackness of space as Captain Rhea Sinclair gazed out from the cockpit of her vessel, the Tempest. Her heart thrummed with anticipation and the slightest bit of trepidation. The alien planet Antraxia lay directly in her path. Rhea was Earth's first ambassador to the planet, and if the reports were correct, the first human to step foot on it. The Antraxians, a race of highly intelligent but enigmatic beings, had cautiously accepted her presence, but there was much left unsaid. As the ship descended through Antraxia's shimmering atmosphere, the clouds parted, revealing an endless landscape of towering crystal spires and lush, emerald-green vegetation. Each spire shimmered with an otherworldly glow, and Rhea felt a sense of awe and reverence. She adjusted her uniform, took a steadying breath, and prepared herself for what might be her most daunting mission yet. The Antraxian welcoming committee awaited her as she touched down on a wide, polished platform of translucent stone. Their leader, Councillor Varol, was a tall, regal figure with pale silver skin that glowed faintly under the twin suns. He wore a series of layered, iridescent robes that shifted colors with every movement. Rhea stepped forward, her steps echoing on the platform as she approached Varol and his entourage. "Welcome, Captain Rhea Sinclair of Earth," Varol greeted her, his voice deep and resonant. Though he spoke in his native language, a small device in Rhea's ear instantly translated his words. She inclined her head respectfully. "Thank you, Councillor Varol. I'm honored to be here and to represent Earth in this historic alliance," Rhea replied, hoping her carefully rehearsed words sounded genuine. Varol's gaze was steady, scrutinizing. "We, too, are honored, though cautious. Your world is new to us, and many of our people harbor concerns about Earth's nature." Rhea caught the veiled reference and understood its weight. She'd studied Antraxian culture extensively, and while they were advanced and peaceful, they held deep-rooted fears of outsiders. She gave him a reassuring smile. "My mission is one of peace and learning, Counselor. I'm here to understand your people, your traditions, and to show that Earth values harmony as much as exploration," she assured him. He nodded, though the lines of his face revealed lingering doubt. "Then, let us begin our journey." Varol gestured, and they began to walk toward the grand crystalline city in the distance, with the rest of his entourage silently falling into step behind them. An unexpected companion. As they made their way through the city, Rhea marveled at the Antraxian architecture. The buildings were seamlessly integrated with nature, crystal towers blending with sprawling forests and glowing, bioluminescent plants. Antraxians passed by, their gazes flicking to her with open curiosity but careful distance. Rhea's attention was drawn to a figure who seemed to be observing her more intently than the others. She was shorter than the rest of the Antraxians, with skin a shade deeper than silver, almost a dusk-like blue. Her eyes glowed with an intense emerald hue, and her attire was simpler than that of Varol's attendants. Varol noticed her gaze. "Ah, this is Lyra," he introduced her, his voice softening. "One of our cultural historians and scholars. She will accompany you on your time here, to ensure you respect our customs." Rhea caught the underlying message and offered Lyra a polite nod. "It's an honor, Lyra." Lyra's expression remained inscrutable as she returned the nod. "The honor is ours, Captain Sinclair," she replied, her voice cool but steady. As they walked through the city, Rhea made small attempts to engage with Lyra, but each question was met with guarded, curt replies. She sensed a deep-seated wariness in the scholar, a hesitancy that went beyond mere cultural differences. Undeterred, Rhea continued to show respect for their surroundings, asking about the architecture, the plants, the festivals she had read about. But Lyra's responses remained factual, devoid of any personal insights. Their tour concluded at a wide courtyard where the evening gathering would soon take place. It was an opportunity for Rhea to be introduced to a broader audience, a chance for her to make her first impression on the Antraxian people. She felt the pressure mounting but remained resolute. The ceremony of union. The courtyard began to fill with Antraxians, each wearing flowing garments that seemed to pulse with light. Rhea could feel the hum of their collective energy, their attention focused on her as she took her place beside Varel and Lyra. A voice echoed through the courtyard, and she watched as an elder stepped forward, holding an ornate staff encrusted with tiny, glimmering crystals. He chanted words she didn't understand, but the translation device whispered them to her. "We welcome the stranger, the seeker, and the one who comes with open hands." At the elder's signal, Rhea stepped forward and placed her hand on her heart, bowing her head in a gesture she'd learned was a sign of mutual respect. The crowd watched her intently, some eyes warm, others wary. "This marks the beginning of a journey toward unity and understanding," Varel announced, his words resonating across the space. "Let us welcome Captain Sinclair as she seeks to learn and in turn share her wisdom with us." A soft, melodic sound filled the air as the Antraxians sang in harmony, their voices blending together in a hauntingly beautiful song. Rhea felt the weight of the moment and knew that this was only the beginning of her trials on Antraxia. An unexpected revelation. As the ceremony ended, the crowd dispersed, though many lingered to exchange curious glances with her. Rhea noticed that Lyra had stayed nearby, her expression still guarded, but with a hint of something Rhea hadn't seen before: intrigue. "Do you always trust so easily, Captain?" Lyra asked, her voice low and challenging. Rhea tilted her head, meeting Lyra's intense gaze. "Trust is earned, yes, but it must start somewhere. If I didn't trust in the possibility of goodwill, I wouldn't be here at all." Lyra's expression softened just slightly, and for a moment, a flicker of vulnerability crossed her face. Many among us question if humans are capable of such genuine intentions. Rhea paused, realizing this might be a rare chance to connect with her enigmatic companion. "Tell me, Lyra," she said gently, "what do you believe?" Lyra hesitated, looking out toward the glowing trees beyond the courtyard. "I believe that trust requires understanding, but understanding requires patience. Perhaps time will reveal whether your intentions are pure." Rhea nodded thoughtfully, sensing that she'd reached a small but significant turning point. As they parted ways for the night, she felt a spark of hope kindling within her. If she could earn Lyra's respect, perhaps she could bridge the gap between their worlds. A storm of questions. Later that night, Rhea lay in her quarters, staring at the alien constellations outside her window. Her mind raced with questions, doubts, and possibilities. She knew this mission was unlike any she had undertaken before. Trust would be hard-won, perhaps even impossible for some, but she felt a conviction building inside her. Her thoughts drifted back to Lyra, whose skepticism and curiosity made her stand out among the Antraxians she'd met. Rhea sensed that Lyra's doubts were rooted in more than just cultural differences, perhaps something personal, some past experience with outsiders, or even a fear of the unknown. Whatever the case, Rhea was determined to understand and, if possible, win over her reluctant guide. Beneath the surface, Captain Rhea Sinclair awoke to the faint light of Antraxia's twin suns filtering through her chamber window. Outside, the alien landscape glowed softly in shades of violet and emerald, a peaceful contrast to the tensions simmering below the surface. Today would be her first chance to learn about Antraxia's society from within, to see if there was truly a bridge between their worlds. As she prepared, a soft chime sounded by her door. She opened it to find Lyra, her appointed guide, who looked as composed as ever, though her eyes held a flicker of impatience. "Are you ready, Captain?" Lyra asked, her voice carrying the usual formality. "Ready as I'll ever be," Rhea replied with a small smile, hoping to ease the tension. They set off through the crystalline corridors of the Antraxian palace, their path lined with walls that shifted colors as they passed. The quiet beauty was almost overwhelming, and Rhea found herself trailing a step behind, entranced by the play of light. Lyra noticed her fascination and paused, her expression softening. "Our architecture reflects the shifting nature of the universe," Lyra explained. Antraxians believe that change is the only constant, and so our surroundings mirror that belief. Rhea nodded thoughtfully. That's beautiful. It makes me think that maybe we aren't so different after all. Laura's eyes narrowed slightly, a guarded look returning to her face. Perhaps, but beliefs are easier to share than behaviors. Before Rhea could respond, they arrived at a large, open hall filled with rows of desks and holographic screens. Antraxians moved about, busy with tasks Rhea could only guess at. The room buzzed with quiet energy, a focused hum of activity that reminded her of Earth's research labs. "This is our Council of Knowledge," Laura said, leading Rhea into the room. "It is here that we store all Antraxian history, science, and cultural wisdom. Every council member is responsible for preserving and adding to our collective understanding." Rhea watched as Councillor Varel approached them, his robes flowing gracefully behind him. He greeted her with a slight bow, acknowledging Lyra with a respectful nod. "Captain Sinclair, welcome to our Center of Knowledge," he began. "Today, you would observe our methods of inquiry and preservation. We believe understanding can foster respect between our people." "I couldn't agree more," Rhea replied, feeling the weight of her role settling on her shoulders. An intriguing experiment. They moved toward a section of the hall where an Antraxian scientist was demonstrating a complex process involving a suspended hologram of a plant-like organism that pulsed with faint light. The scientist was manipulating the hologram's structure, adjusting its colors and shapes as a group of council members observed. Rhea turned to Lyra, fascinated. "What are they studying?" Lyra crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. "It's a native species with a unique ability to change its form based on environmental needs. They're analyzing how it adapts and exploring ways to apply its traits to our own technologies." "Adapting to survive," Rhea murmured. "We have similar fields of study on Earth, genetics, biotechnology. I'd love to understand your approach to science." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Perhaps, Captain, but our methods require a delicate balance of knowledge and restraint. Unlike Earth, we don't seek to dominate nature. We learn from it." The implied criticism didn't escape Rhea, and she felt a pang of defensiveness. But rather than argue, she took a deep breath and replied, "That's why I'm here, Lyra, to learn. Earth's past isn't perfect, but we're trying to move forward." Lyra's expression softened just slightly. "Then you may observe." A moment of connection. The day unfolded with Rhea shadowing the Antraxians as they demonstrated their methods. She watched as they combined ancient traditions with advanced technology, striking a balance that seemed almost magical to her. She could feel a shift within herself, a growing respect for their wisdom and care. As they broke for a midday meal, Rhea found herself sitting beside Lyra, who was carefully organizing a plate of vibrant Antraxian fruits and grains. "Lyra," Rhea began tentatively, "I've been thinking. There's so much Earth could learn from Antraxia. Your respect for nature, your commitment to balance, it's inspiring." Lyra paused, looking up with a faint smile. "And what would Antraxia learn from Earth?" The question caught Rhea off guard. She considered her answer carefully. "I think resilience. Earth has faced countless challenges, from natural disasters to our own mistakes. We've had to adapt, even when it seemed impossible." Lyra regarded her with a thoughtful expression. "Perhaps there is value in resilience, but some of us question the price Earth has paid for it." Rhea held her gaze, realizing the conversation was a turning point. "I understand your doubts, Lyra, but that's why I'm here, to prove that Earth is more than its mistakes." For a moment, they sat in silence, the quiet tension between them fading slightly. Rhea could sense that Lyra was beginning to see her as more than just an outsider, a shadow from the past. The afternoon took a surprising turn when an alert sounded, drawing the attention of everyone in the hall. Councillor Varel, who had been watching Rhea and Lyra's exchange from afar, stepped forward, his expression grave. "There has been a disturbance near the northern border," he announced. "It appears that an unauthorized vessel entered our atmosphere. Its origin is unknown. Rhea's pulse quickened. An unauthorized vessel? Could there be other humans on Antraxia? Lyra glanced at her, her eyes narrowing. Captain, do you know anything about this? Rhea shook her head, feeling a surge of concern. No, I swear. I came alone, and as far as I know, Earth hasn't sent any other missions. The council members murmured among themselves, their gazes suspicious. Rhea felt the weight of their distrust pressing down on her, but she held her ground, determined to prove her innocence. Councillor Varrell turned to Lyra. Take Captain Sinclair to the observation tower. If there are more of her kind here, she will want to see for herself. Without another word, Lyra motioned for Rhea to follow. They made their way through winding corridors and up a steep staircase until they reached the tower. From the large windows, they could see a small dot in the sky, a vessel, hovering just beyond the city's borders. Rhea's heart raced as she peered through a pair of viewing lenses. The vessel didn't look like any Earth ship she knew, but the uncertainty gnawed at her. Could Earth have sent someone without telling her? Or was this a rogue mission? I don't recognize that ship, she said, her voice strained. Lyra studied her intently, her expression unreadable. Then perhaps we have a shared mystery, Captain, and it seems your arrival is not the only one to stir unease among us. A fragile alliance. The council quickly assembled to discuss the mysterious ship. Rhea was invited to attend, though she could feel the wary stares from many of the Antraxians present. Councillor Varrell addressed the group, his voice calm but firm. We have reason to believe this vessel poses no immediate threat, he began. However, we must consider the possibility of outside interference. This alliance with Earth is still new and untested. Rhea stepped forward, feeling compelled to speak. I understand your caution, Councillor Varrell, but I swear I had no knowledge of this ship. Earth did not send it. I'm as concerned as you are about who, or what, might be on board. There was a long pause, during which the council members exchanged glances. Finally, Varrell nodded, his expression softening. Then we shall investigate together, Captain. If there is indeed another visitor, it is our responsibility to ensure the safety of Antraxia. The decision was made to send a reconnaissance team to approach the ship, with Rhea and Lyra among those chosen. Rhea could feel her pulse quickening at the thought of facing the unknown alongside Lyra, knowing that trust between them was fragile. As they prepared to depart, Rhea stole a glance at Lyra, who seemed lost in thought, her expression tense. Despite the tension, Rhea sensed a growing bond between them, a bond forged in the fire of shared uncertainty and the hope that they might find common ground. They stepped onto the transport ship, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Rhea knew that whatever lay ahead could either strengthen the alliance or tear it apart. As the vessel lifted off, she silently vowed to face whatever challenges came with resilience and integrity, determined to prove that Earth's legacy could be one of peace, not destruction. The encounter beyond the border. The reconnaissance ship hummed with a steady, low vibration as it sped toward the hovering vessel on Antraxia's northern border. Captain Rhea Sinclair sat in silence beside Lyra, both women absorbed in their own thoughts. The mystery of the unidentified craft weighed heavily on Rhea's mind. She had come to Antraxia hoping to build trust, yet now, a strange visitor threatened to undermine the fragile progress she'd made. Lyra broke the silence, her voice low. If this ship is from Earth, as many believe, it could ruin everything. Rhea turned to her, her gaze unwavering. I know, but I came alone, Lyra. Earth hasn't authorized any additional missions. Whoever they are, they're operating outside of my knowledge, and possibly Earth's. Lyra studied her with an intensity that bordered on suspicion, but there was also a hint of reluctant curiosity. If that's true, Captain, then we are both in uncharted territory. For all our sakes, I hope you are right. As they neared the unidentified craft, Rhea could make out more details through the viewing window. The ship was sleek, its hull dark and seamless, with no visible markings or lights. a design unlike anything she recognized from Earth or Antraxian technology. It seemed to hover ominously, silent and still, as if waiting. Counselor Varel, who was leading the mission, spoke over the intercom. "Prepare to initiate contact. We will approach slowly. Maintain caution." The reconnaissance ship drew closer, and a holographic screen flickered to life, showing a closer view of the vessel's exterior. Rhea's heart pounded as the details sharpened. A small emblem, barely visible, marked the side of the ship, a symbol she didn't recognize, but one that hinted at origins far removed from either Earth or Antraxia. Varel's voice was calm but tense. "We're attempting to communicate with the ship. Captain Sinclair, do you recognize this emblem?" Rhea studied it, searching her memory for anything similar, but it eluded her. "No, it's not Earth's, nor any allied nations that I know of." There was a pause, then Varel's voice came through again. "Understood. We're sending a transmission on all frequencies." A few tense moments passed, the silence on the ship punctuated only by the soft hum of the engines. Just as Rhea was beginning to think they'd get no response, the screen flickered again, and an image filled the display. A figure stood at the helm of the foreign ship, draped in dark, metallic robes. His skin was an iridescent shade of charcoal, his eyes a brilliant yellow that seemed to pierce through the screen. He inclined his head slowly, a gesture that held both respect and caution. "Greetings," the stranger said, his voice resonating with an unnatural clarity. "I am Aluran, emissary of the Zereth Coalition." Rhea's mind raced. The Zereth Coalition. She had never heard of it, and judging by the tense expressions of Varel and the Antraxian crew, neither had they. Counselor Varel stepped forward, his expression guarded. "I am Counselor Varel of Antraxia. Your presence here was neither anticipated nor authorized. State your purpose." Alaran's yellow gaze drifted to Rhea, and a faint, unsettling smile crossed his face. "We come in peace, Counselor Varel. I am here on a diplomatic mission, much like your Earth representative here." His eyes lingered on Rhea, assessing her with an intensity that made her uneasy. Rhea took a steadying breath, then spoke up. "Captain Rhea Sinclair of Earth. I'm here as an ambassador to Antraxia, but I was unaware of any other interplanetary missions in this sector. How did you come to be here, Emissary Alaran?" Alaran's gaze remained on her, his smile widening. "Captain Sinclair, Earth's ambitions are known even in distant sectors. Your species' curiosity has reached far beyond its means. We, too, have an interest in fostering alliances." His words were smooth, but Rhea could sense an undercurrent of something darker, something he was withholding. She glanced at Varel, who gave a subtle nod, signaling her to press further. "Emissary Alaran," Rhea said carefully, "we're open to peaceful exchanges. But why approach Antraxia without forewarning? This is a delicate moment for our alliance." Alaran inclined his head slightly. "Indeed, Captain. Delicacy is precisely why I'm here. We Zereth have been observing Antraxia and Earth for some time. We believe that our combined strengths could serve the galaxy better than isolated alliances." Varel's gaze hardened. "We are not interested in alliances formed under veiled threats, Emissary. If peace is your goal, state it plainly. Why now?" Alaran's yellow eyes glinted, a calculated pause stretching between them. "Because, Counselor, not all entities in the galaxy wish for peace. There are forces beyond your understanding, forces that would see both Antraxia and Earth subjugated." Rhea felt a chill race down her spine. Subjugated? By whom? Alaran's smile vanished, his tone shifting to one of gravity. "By those who seek only conquest and domination. The Zereth Coalition has seen the rise of such threats. We stand against them, and we seek alliances to strengthen our defense. An alliance with Antraxia and Earth would benefit us all." Varel's expression remained steely. "That is a matter we must discuss among ourselves. For now, you are on our territory without permission. Your actions here will be watched closely." Alaran inclined his head in acceptance, though his eyes never left Rhea. "Understood, counselor. But remember, isolation breeds vulnerability." The transmission ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Rhea glanced at Lyra, who seemed as unsettled as she felt. "We should return," Varel announced, his voice sharp. "There is much to discuss." A troubled alliance. Back on Antraxia, the council convened in the Grand Hall, Rhea and Lyra among the few non-council members permitted to attend. The air was thick with tension as Varel recounted the details of their encounter with the Zereth emissary. Council members murmured among themselves, some voices filled with fear, others with indignation. Finally, Varel turned to Rhea. "Captain Sinclair, your insight is invaluable here. Do you believe the Zereth pose a genuine threat, or was Aloran's warning merely a strategy to gain our trust?" Rhea considered her response carefully. The Zereth may be sincere in their concerns, but their approach was aggressive. "I can't say if they're trustworthy, but Earth has faced similar challenges in our past, nations forming alliances to resist common threats. It's possible Aloran believes such an alliance could strengthen us against whatever forces he mentioned." An elder council member, her voice trembling with age and authority, spoke up. "We must be cautious. An alliance with Earth is already a great risk. To add another power would be to invite chaos." Varel nodded, agreed, but ignoring the Zereth entirely could expose us to danger. If there are indeed hostile forces beyond our reach, we must consider every option. As the council deliberated, Rhea noticed Lyra's thoughtful expression, her brow furrowed. She leaned closer. "What do you think, Lyra?" Lyra hesitated, her gaze distant. "I believe Aloran's warning wasn't a lie. But his motives?" She paused, searching for the right words. "The Zereth may see us as pawns in a larger game. We must tread carefully." The meeting adjourned with no final decision, only a commitment to monitor the Zereth and remain vigilant. Rhea left the hall feeling the weight of uncertainty, wondering if Aloran's warning was the prelude to something far more dangerous. A shocking revelation. Later that evening, Rhea found herself restless, her mind racing with questions. She decided to take a walk through the gardens, hoping the serene beauty of Antraxia's flora would calm her. As she wandered, she was surprised to see Lyra sitting alone on a bench, deep in thought. Rhea approached, hesitating before speaking. "Lyra, may I join you?" Lyra glanced up, surprised but not unwelcoming. "Of course, Captain." They sat in silence for a moment, the soft glow of bioluminescent flowers casting gentle light around them. Finally, Rhea spoke. "This alliance, do you think it's worth it? Between Earth and Antraxia?" Lyra looked away, her expression troubled. "There are many who would say no, but I am not so certain. Meeting you has challenged my views, Captain. Earth is more complex than the stories we tell ourselves." Rhea smiled softly. "That means a lot, coming from you." Lyra met her gaze, something unspoken passing between them. "And the Zereth, they're more than just a threat, I think. I feel as though there's something we're not seeing, some hidden piece of their puzzle." As if on cue, a subtle movement caught their attention from the edge of the garden. A shadowy figure darted between trees, quick and silent. Rhea and Lyra exchanged a look, both springing to their feet. "Lyra, stay close," Rhea whispered, instinctively slipping into a defensive stance. The figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dim light, a cloaked figure with eyes that gleamed a piercing yellow. "Aloran." "Captain Sinclair, Scholar Lyra," he greeted them in a low voice. "Forgive the intrusion, but our conversation was unfinished." Rhea's heart pounded as Aloran continued, his tone smooth and composed. "Antraxia and Earth are on the brink of a revelation, one that could reshape the galaxy, but only if we stand united. Will you not consider the wisdom of joining us?" Rhea felt a chill at his words, a sense that this was only the beginning. She glanced at Lyra, seeing the same realization dawning in her friend's eyes. Whatever path they chose, it would lead them into uncharted territory, a journey that would test their courage, trust, and loyalty to their worlds. Shadows and alliances. The moonless night hung over the Antraxian city, its towering crystal spires casting faint reflections in the dim light of bioluminescent plants. Rhea Sinclair's heart raced as she stood in the gardens with Lyra, face to face with the Zereth emissary Alaran. His piercing yellow eyes gleamed with an intensity that sent a chill through her. Alaran's voice was smooth, almost hypnotic. "I do apologize for the unannounced visit, but time is of the essence. I come with an offer, one that could benefit both Earth and Antraxia." Rhea held his gaze, wary. "Your presence here is a violation of Antraxian protocol, emissary. I suggest you state your intentions quickly." Alaran's lips curved in a faint smile. Direct and to the point. "Very well, Captain. I have come to propose a shared alliance, not just for defense, but for knowledge and technology. The Zereth Coalition has resources that could help Earth and Antraxia advance beyond imagination. But we would require a mutual commitment." Beside her, Lyra remained tense, her gaze sharp. "A commitment to what exactly?" she demanded. Alaran's eyes shifted to Lyra, his expression unreadable. "To unity, to cooperation, and, if necessary, to mutual protection. There are forces at play here, dangers that neither of your worlds are equipped to handle alone." Rhea's mind raced. The Zereth emissary's words were compelling, but something felt off. Alaran's presence on Antraxian soil without permission, the vague warnings, the almost desperate push for an alliance, it all felt calculated. She glanced at Lyra, who gave the slightest shake of her head, signaling her doubt. "Why should we trust you?" Rhea asked, her voice steady. "You've come here unannounced, with warnings but no proof of any threat." Alaran's smile faded, his gaze hardening. "Trust is a luxury neither of our worlds can afford. I am offering survival, Captain. Surely that is enough." Rhea held his gaze, refusing to be intimidated. Survival through submission. "No, that's not how we work. Earth values freedom. We may form alliances, but not at the cost of our autonomy." For a moment, Alaran's expression twisted, a flash of frustration crossing his face. But just as quickly, he composed himself, his tone softening. "I understand your hesitation, but know this. If you reject our offer, you will face the coming storm alone. And trust me, you are not prepared." The cryptic warning hung in the air, a weighty silence settling between them. Finally, Alaran inclined his head, his expression returning to a mask of politeness. "I will leave you to consider my proposal, but do not take too long. The forces I speak of will not wait." Without another word, he turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Rhea and Lyra standing in tense silence. A growing unease. Rhea exhaled, the weight of Alaran's words settling heavily on her. She turned to Lyra, who looked equally disturbed. "He's hiding something," Lyra murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "And whatever this storm is, it's clear he intends to use it to manipulate us." Rhea nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "But if there is a real threat, we need to be prepared. Alaran may be hiding something, but I can't ignore the possibility that he's telling the truth about this danger." Lyra's gaze sharpened. "Antraxia has faced many threats in the past, Captain, but never have we formed alliances out of fear. If this coalition is as powerful as he claims, why would they need us?" It was a question that lingered in Rhea's mind. Why seek out Earth and Antraxia, worlds that were still relatively new to interstellar alliances? She could sense that there was something more at stake here, something Alaran hadn't revealed. "Perhaps we should inform Councillor Varel," Lyra suggested, her tone measured. "He would want to know about this encounter." Rhea hesitated. "Yes, but we need more than just Alaran's warnings if we're going to convince the Council. We need to find out exactly what this storm is." Lyra studied her, a faint smile playing on her lips. "You're not one to back down from a challenge, are you, Captain?" Rhea chuckled, though her mind remained focused. Let's just say Earth didn't send me here to sit idly by. The Forbidden Archives. The following day, Rhea and Lyra sought out Counselor Varel, who was in the midst of a meeting with the Council of Knowledge. After listening to their account of Alaron's visit, his expression darkened. "This Zereth emissary grows bolder by the day," Varel murmured, his tone laced with disapproval. "If he truly intends to warn us of a danger, then why approach us in the shadows?" "Exactly," Rhea agreed. "But without knowing more about this threat, we're in the dark. Is there any way we can investigate further, perhaps consult Antraxian records?" Varel hesitated, then glanced around the council chamber, where the elders were deep in discussion. There is one place, an archive that contains records of all external threats Antraxia has faced, but it is highly restricted. Few have access. Lyra's eyes widened. The Shadow Archive. Rhea looked between them, curious. The Shadow Archive. Varel nodded solemnly. A hidden vault of records documenting Antraxian encounters with hostile forces beyond our world. But it is not a place we access lightly. Its knowledge is considered dangerous. Rhea squared her shoulders. "Counselor, if we're going to face this threat, we need all the information we can get. I'm willing to take the risk." Varel studied her, his expression thoughtful. "Very well, Captain. Lyra will accompany you, but tread carefully. The knowledge within is not meant for the unprepared." With that, he led them down a series of dimly lit corridors that wound deep below the palace. The air grew cooler as they descended, the silence thick and foreboding. Finally, they arrived at a massive, ornate door adorned with intricate carvings of Antraxian symbols. Varel entered a series of codes, and the door opened with a soft hiss. "Beyond this door lies the Shadow Archive. What you find within is yours to bear." Rhea and Lyra stepped through the doorway, entering a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and ancient scrolls encased in protective glass. The dim light cast eerie shadows, and Rhea felt a strange, reverent silence settle over her. Lyra moved to one of the displays, activating it with a soft touch. A hologram flickered to life, showing a recorded image of an alien race unlike any Rhea had seen before, hulking figures with armor-like scales and cold, expressionless faces. "This is the Draken Empire," Lyra explained, her voice hushed. "They were the last external force to threaten Antraxia. Fierce and relentless, they waged a brutal war against our people centuries ago." Rhea studied the image, a chill running down her spine. "Did they survive?" Lyra nodded grimly. "We managed to repel them, but only barely. It's said that they've continued to expand their reach across the galaxy, consuming weaker worlds in their path." She pulled up another display, showing a star map with several regions marked in red. These areas represent territories conquered by the Draken. They're far from Antraxia now, but if Alaron's warning is about them, we may be facing a threat unlike any we've seen. Rhea's mind whirled. If the Draken were truly on the move, then Alaron's warning suddenly held a dangerous credibility. But why would the Zereth Coalition, a seemingly powerful entity, be wary of them? "Is there anything here about the Zereth Coalition?" Rhea asked, scanning the displays. Lyra hesitated, then activated another section of the archive. A new image flickered to life, showing a fragmented report on a mysterious alliance that had formed several sectors away. The records were incomplete, filled with redacted information, but the few details were chilling. "The Zereth have a history of manipulation," Lyra explained quietly. "They formed alliances before, only to use them for their own purposes. It's said they have their own agenda, one that few understand." Rhea clenched her fists, feeling a surge of determination. "Then we can't trust them completely. We need to prepare Antraxia for whatever's coming, but without compromising our integrity." Lyra nodded, her gaze steady. "Agreed. We have to be strategic. If we play Alaron's game, it must be on our terms." An oath of resolve. Emerging from the Shadow Archive, Rhea and Lyra found themselves once again in the dim corridors beneath the palace. Their silence was heavy, both women deep in thought as they processed what they'd learned. At last, Lyra spoke, her tone somber. "Captain, if the Draken are coming, this alliance may be the only way to stand a chance. But we must approach it carefully." Rhea nodded. "Then we'll move forward, but with caution. If Alaran wants an alliance, we'll demand transparency. No hidden motives, no manipulation." They returned to the council chamber, where Varel and the elders awaited them, their expressions expectant. Rhea relayed what they had found in the Shadow Archive, describing the Draken threat and the Zereth Coalition's potential involvement. Councillor Varel listened intently, his expression grave. "If the Draken are truly on the move, then Antraxia is in danger. But we will not be forced into an alliance through fear alone. We will confront Alaran directly and demand his full intentions." Rhea felt a swell of resolve. "I'll stand by Antraxia in this. Earth's mission here was one of peace, and we're not going to abandon that now." Varel inclined his head, his gaze approving. "Then let us prepare. If Alaran seeks unity, we will offer it, but on terms that preserve our freedom and sovereignty." As the council prepared for the confrontation with Alaran, Rhea felt a newfound sense of purpose. She had come to Antraxia as a stranger, but now she felt an allegiance to this world and its people, a loyalty forged through shared risk and mutual respect. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and Alaran's motives remained as shadowed as ever. But as she looked at Lyra and the council members beside her, Rhea knew one thing for certain: she would not let Antraxia fall to fear or manipulation. Together, they would face the storm, whatever form it took, and fight to protect both their worlds from the darkness looming on the horizon. The ultimatum. The days following Rhea and Lyra's discovery in the Shadow Archive were filled with intense preparations. The Council of Knowledge, once hesitant about Earth's involvement, now recognized the imminent danger posed by the Draken Empire. The arrival of the Zereth emissary Alaran and his cryptic warnings no longer seemed like mere intimidation. The stakes were real, and Antraxia's sovereignty was in jeopardy. Rhea spent her days between council meetings and strategic planning sessions with Antraxian defense officials. Even as she worked, her mind was on Earth, hoping that her people understood the severity of the threat they faced together. Alaran's shadow lingered, his promises of unity laced with veiled threats that unsettled Rhea deeply. One morning, as she was poring over tactical maps with Lyra in the council's strategy room, a message came through on her communicator. A member of the council guard appeared in the doorway, his face pale with tension. "Captain Sinclair, Scholar Lyra," he said, his voice tight. "The Zereth emissary Alaran has returned. He's demanding an audience with the council, and he insists that you both be present." Rhea exchanged a grim look with Lyra, who nodded in silent agreement. They had anticipated Alaran's return, but neither expected him to demand an audience with the council so boldly. They quickly made their way to the council chamber, where Councillor Varel and the other elders awaited, their expressions tense. Alaran stood before them, his dark, metallic robes shimmering under the chamber's light, his yellow eyes cold and assessing. He greeted them with a respectful bow, but his gaze never softened. "Councillor Varel," he began, his voice carrying an edge of impatience. "I come with an urgent message from the Zereth Coalition. We require a decision." Varel regarded him with an air of calm authority. "And what decision, exactly, do you seek, emissary?" Alaran's gaze swept across the room, lingering on Rhea and Lyra, before returning to Varel. "The time has come for Antraxia and Earth to join the coalition. The Draken Empire is advancing, and it will not be long before they reach this sector. We offer protection, but only under our terms." Rhea bristled at his tone. "So you're giving us an ultimatum? Protection in exchange for submission?" Alaran's eyes flicked to her, his expression unreadable. "Captain Sinclair, you misunderstand. The coalition is a union of worlds working toward a common goal: survival. The Draken do not negotiate. They do not grant mercy. If we stand united, we may withstand their assault, but if you refuse our alliance, you will face them alone. The council members murmured among themselves, their faces a mixture of fear and anger. Varel raised his hand, silencing them, his expression hard as he addressed Aloran. Emissary, Antraxia does not make alliances under threats. We are open to cooperation, but only on terms that respect our independence. If you truly seek unity, then speak with honesty and transparency. A flicker of irritation crossed Aloran's face, but he quickly composed himself. Counselor, I speak with honesty now. The Draken Empire will not be defeated by fragmented alliances. If you join the coalition, Antraxia will benefit from our technological advancements, our shared resources, and our military support. But if you insist on remaining separate, then I cannot guarantee your survival. Rhea stepped forward, her voice steady. And what happens if we join? Will Earth and Antraxia become pawns in the Zereth schemes? Aloran's eyes narrowed, his patience clearly waning. The coalition is not a dictatorship, Captain. It is a collective defense. But we do expect loyalty and cooperation. These are not unreasonable terms in the face of annihilation. Lara's voice cut through the tension, calm but resolute. And if we refuse? A heavy silence settled over the room as Aloran's gaze swept over them, calculating. Then the coalition will not intervene when the Draken come. You will face them alone, and when they arrive, you'll understand the cost of defiance. The threat hung in the air, thick with implication. Aloran's cold confidence sent a chill through Rhea. She knew he was exploiting their fear, pushing them toward compliance. But she also knew that their survival depended on more than just brute strength. It depended on trust, something Aloran had yet to earn. Varel rose from his seat, his voice unyielding. Emissary, we will consider your offer, but we will not be coerced. Antraxia's decision will be made on its own terms, not under threat of destruction. Aloran's eyes flashed with barely concealed frustration. Very well. But remember, Counselor, that time is not on your side. The Draken advance grows nearer every day. Without another word, he turned and strode out of the chamber, his dark robes trailing behind him like a shadow. A plan of defiance. After Aloran's departure, the council chamber erupted into heated discussion. Some council members argued that joining the coalition was their only chance of survival, while others insisted that such an alliance would strip them of their autonomy. Rhea watched the debate unfold, feeling the weight of the decision bearing down on her. At last, Varel raised his hand, silencing the room. He turned to Rhea, his expression somber. Captain Sinclair, your insight has been invaluable to us. You have faced threats beyond Antraxia's borders. What is your counsel? Rhea took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. I believe the Draken are a genuine threat, but I don't trust Aloran or the Zereth coalition. Their offer is shrouded in secrecy, and alliances built on fear rarely end well. If we agree to their terms now, we risk becoming their subordinates. A council elder leaned forward, his face lined with worry. But if we refuse, we face the Draken alone. Is that not a greater risk? Rhea nodded. It's a risk, yes. But I believe we have another option. Earth has allies, other worlds that share our values. We could forge our own alliance, one based on mutual respect rather than coercion. The council members exchanged uneasy glances, but Varel looked intrigued. An independent alliance, formed with those who value freedom and sovereignty. It is a bold idea, Captain, but do we have time? Lyra spoke up, her voice steady. Perhaps not. But if we move quickly, we may be able to gather support. There are neighboring worlds who would rather stand with us than fall under Zereth control. Rhea felt a surge of determination. Then let's do it. We'll reach out to Earth's allies, and I'll personally take this mission to Earth's leadership. If we're going to face the Draken, we'll do it on our own terms. Varel gave a solemn nod. Very well, Captain. Antraxia will support your efforts. But remember, time's of the essence. The Draken advance is relentless, and we must be prepared for all outcomes. With that, the Council agreed to proceed with Rhea's plan. She would return to Earth, rally allies, and gather support for an independent alliance against the Draken. It was a daunting task, but Rhea felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had a chance, however slim, to forge their own path. A final warning. As Rhea prepared to leave Antraxia, Lyra approached her in the hangar, her expression uncharacteristically sullen. "Captain, before you go, there's something I need you to know." Rhea paused, noticing a hesitation in Lyra's voice. "What is it?" Lyra glanced around, then leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "The Zereth aren't just looking to form alliances. They have a history of destabilizing governments, of turning allies into vassal states. Antraxia has studied them, but their true motives remain hidden. Alaran is here for more than just defense, he's here to secure control." Rhea's jaw tightened. "Then we're right to resist them, but it means we'll need to be even more cautious." Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with concern. "Be careful, Captain. The Zereth don't take rejection lightly. They may try to sabotage your mission." Rhea placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, offering a reassuring smile. "Thank you, Lyra. I'll be careful, and I promise, I won't let them take Antraxia's freedom." Lyra's expression softened, a rare warmth in her gaze. "I believe you, Captain. May the stars guide you." With that, Rhea boarded her ship, the Tempest, and prepared for departure. As the engines hummed to life, she took one last look at Antraxia's crystalline spires, their beauty stark against the darkening sky. She felt a surge of resolve. This world, with its wisdom and resilience, was worth fighting for, and she would do everything in her power to protect it. A journey of allies. The journey back to Earth was fraught with tension. Rhea knew the risks she was taking, the dangers of defying the Zereth and the Draken alike, but she also knew that alliances built on respect and cooperation were worth the struggle. Upon reaching Earth, she was met with skepticism and concern. Many officials doubted the existence of the Draken threat, while others questioned the feasibility of forming an independent alliance. But Rhea pressed on, sharing the knowledge she had gained on Antraxia and the imminent threat the Draken posed. Slowly, she began to gather support. Old allies from Earth's distant partnerships came forward, worlds that had once been reluctant to join interstellar coalitions, but now saw the value in unity. Messages of support trickled in, and soon Rhea found herself at the head of a growing coalition of independent worlds, each determined to resist both the Draken and the Zereth's manipulation. The rising storm. Back on Antraxia, tensions mounted. Reports of Draken movements in nearby sectors spread fear throughout the city, and Alaran's emissaries grew more insistent, pushing the Council to accept their offer of protection. But the Council, fortified by Rhea's mission, held firm, placing their trust in her efforts to secure allies. And as the storm loomed on the horizon, Rhea's coalition began to take shape, a beacon of hope in a galaxy on the brink of chaos. The Draken threat was real, but so was the resolve of those who refused to bow to fear. Rhea knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with peril. But with her allies beside her and Antraxia's unwavering courage behind her, she felt ready to face whatever came. Together, they would stand against the coming darkness, not as subjects, but as free worlds bound by a shared commitment to peace and freedom. As her coalition's forces prepared to meet the Draken advance, Rhea felt the weight of her mission settle on her shoulders. The galaxy's future depended on their strength, their unity, and with determination burning in her heart, she knew they would face the storm as one.